RJ.
Still reading.
Oh, yeah, I'm not ready either. But
Again, that fund, as he probably explained to you, the fundamental
Okay.
underlying idea.
I have an extra copy.
Oh, I got these.
yeah, correct, yeah, another person. Absolutely.
I left one in there.
Sure,
I
sure.
know.
Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty. We ready on that end? Okay, we will call the meeting to order here and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. All rise. Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alrighty. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Von Crooks?
Here.
Benedetti?
Here.
LaFever?
Here.
Pate? Here. Perugi?
Here.
Rezeppa?
Here.
Quorum present. Mayor Rezeppa?
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. So the only agenda item we have here tonight, shocker to everyone, is the appointment to fill the council vacancy through the term ending November 2021. I don't normally like to speak for everyone, but I do think that I can in this instance say this is going to be a very difficult meeting. We are very fortunate in the aspect that we have 10 applicants for the spot, and reviewing all the applications and all here, that we have 10 really fantastic candidates that all add something unique and something to this council. This wasn't a situation where you can toss out half of them right out of the gate. It's certainly far from it. So I think that it's very important that throughout this process that both everyone at this table, all the applicants, everyone in the audience, that we all certainly maintain a level of respect and understanding of one another, and that we are certainly not all here because this is fun and glamorous, but because this is difficult and this is an important thing for our city to do here. So I certainly want to make sure that we're all on the same page here. We'll talk about the process a little bit as we go through this, and I'm obviously happy to answer any questions from amongst the council here as well in the interim. But I guess I did want to start. We do have, actually, I will ask Madam Clerk, I know that we had asked on Monday night that you reach out to the 10 applicants, and I just wanted to see if you were able to reach all of them, if they all plan on being here, or if there was any that did not want to be considered or any of the sorts like that.
I did reach out to all the applicants. All were able to attend this evening except for two. Robert Howie is not able to attend, and Dan Gillespie is not able to attend. Bob Howie did send his son, RJ, to represent him, but everybody else is here.
All right, great. Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Mr. Long had just passed me this document just for frame of reference here. This is Section 5.6C of the Charter, Office of the Council. Vacancies occurring in the office of council for more than 120 days before the next regular city election shall be filled on or before the third regular council meeting following such vacancy by a majority of vote of the remaining members of the council. Said appointee to hold office until the Monday following such an election, at which election such vacancies shall be filled as provided in Section 3.6 for any balance of the original unexpired term. So that is what we're here to do this evening. There's obviously, as we've talked about over the last week and a half, 2 weeks, that there's a lot of ambiguity in terms of how we do this. There's not a lot of, certainly recent precedent to do so, but we're going to try and make do with what we've got here. So we've got some general guidelines for consideration and adoption by the council here that were put together by the clerk, our city administrator, and our city attorney, which includes the 5 numbered items here, that a motion to nominate any candidate for appointment and a vote of the council on that motion may be made at any time. A motion to remove a candidate from active consideration may be made at any time. All candidates will be given up to 3 minutes to make an opening statement. The speaking order will be determined by a random number drawing. If a candidate is not in attendance, they may have a representative speak on their behalf or alternatively ask that their responses on the application be read into the record. Except for questions to clarify the record or a candidate's position, it is the goal that no questions will be asked until the pool of candidates under active consideration is no greater than 5. And the reading of the ballots and the tally of votes will all be done in public. So I would actually ask that the council approve this procedure.
I would so
and
move.
guidelines. We've got a motion and support. Is there any discussion? It's seeing none, it is unanimously so ordered. So thank you. Those will be the general guidelines we operate by. And ensuing on this document here for everyone, these are just sort of option A, B, C, D, and E, which are varying voting procedures, which we can utilize now. This isn't something that we need to formally adopt at this moment, and this is certainly not the only options available to all of us here. It can be done in quite literally any fashion as long as it is legal. The only reason we've thrown these out here is, again, this was done through the research of the city clerk, city administrator, and with the approval of the city attorney as well. So, without further ado, I think that, so as for all the applicants that are in the room here, what we are going to begin with is have everyone have the opportunity to deliver a 3-minute opening statement. We would ask that you step to the podium, just your name, and talk about why you're seeking this this post. I do have a timer here that will be utilized, and it does light up green, so you'll be able to see how much time's left to make it a little bit easier. And this will be done by a random order drawing so that it doesn't tip the hand to anyone else, or so that the order is completely random. So if we want any of the candidates here to speak, to come down, we've got the basket here with numbers, and then we will be able to begin with the opening statements from there. So if we want our applicants to come down, that would be great.
I think I'll just, I'll keep the numbers.
Not 18 yet.
Agenda number 3.
That'll turn out to be magic.
I'm more nervous than you guys are. I just want you to know that. You're making my life sick. All of you. All my friends. Come on down. Make me sick. You know? I know. I knew it.
That's 9, because RJ's going to talk. 6.
RJ's gonna speak for his dad.
It'll be good.
That's the real ringer.
Give you a little statement.
Yeah, that's part of it.
Typical.
This guy's girlfriend. Yeah, he told her.
RJ won for half an hour.
Don't listen, Steven. Don't cut RJ off. We hope.
If he's got any future in politics, he will anyway. That's right. So we do have actual advisement from our attorney that we should adopt one of these options for the narrowing of the field before speaking begins. I know that we've all talked about it at some point or another here individually, but I think this would be a good time for discussion about how we want to actually narrow it from the 10 candidates to 5 candidates. I guess I will say, obviously, I can't make a motion here as mayor, but my personal preference would be either option D or option D, or, I'm sorry.
Again.
I've had a big sinus thing going on the last few days, and I took some Sudafed earlier, so this might be a little bit more of a struggle for me than normal. But so option D or option E, where, those options allow us, for everyone that might not have the forms here, would check a box for the 5 candidates that we would like to see moved on. It does not mean we rank them. I say that solely because I don't know that they're just the opening statements that I will be able to rank people. But I do think that after that, we're going to have to whittle it down somehow.
I make a motion to adopt option E and potentially talk about removing the first bullet point.
So would you, okay, so we've got a
Start
motion
at
there.
the top 3.
Do we have support? A second for the motion?
Oh, let me read it.
Okay, we'll give it a second for everyone to
Yep.
read.
Well, that works
So
out.
if we take that out.
Oh, you want that
This
out?
will work out with 4 box, 4 checks. You would definitely get 4 in. Let me sure all the math works.
So I think how the math works there is we would all check 5 candidates, and we'd pass the ballot to the clerk. She would total it up, and the 4 candidates with the most boxes, like, that are on the most ballots, move on to the next
It says
round.
at least 4, at least 4.
Mayor? There may be a tie.
Councilman.
Huh?
There may be a tie.
Yeah, I don't understand, I guess I don't understand the process.
Well, I believe Ms. Pate is trying to get rid of the bullet point, the first bullet point, to just make it 3. So that's why the first bullet point, if it's removed, it becomes 3. The
Okay.
second bullet point would then have to be modified, even though she didn't put that in the motion.
Okay. So I guess that, Councilwoman Pate, what exactly is your motion then here, just so for clarification's sake, and we'll see if we can get a second then.
So reading through this quickly, my motion was to adopt option E minus the first bullet point. So we would shift everything up. So we would place a check mark in the boxes of your top 3 candidates
Okay.
and then roll it out from there as stated in option E.
Okay. So we've got a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Is there a second? Seeing none, the motion dies. I guess my comment, just to that, would be that I guess I would, at least at this point, rather see that go from, instead of being 3, but to be 5. And I don't know if that makes it more palatable for anyone else, if anyone else has any insight onto that.
Yeah, I'm willing to use that as well, then option E completely as written.
Okay, so option E for everyone at home would involve all of us placing a check mark in the boxes of our top 5 candidates after all have spoken. Only those candidates with boxes checked on at least 4 ballots will advance. Then we will place a check mark in the boxes of our top 3 candidates. Only those candidates with boxes checked on at least 4 ballots will advance. And if needed, continue the process until only 2 candidates remain or a motion is made for a single candidate. And that would, after we've narrowed it to the 5 candidates, would allow us to begin our question portion, because I've already jotted down a bunch of fun questions for everyone to do here. So I guess would you be making a motion that you
Yes.
adopt option E?
Correct.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Okay, see.
Second, huh?
Oh, okay, sorry. So motion, it has been moved and supported to adopt option E as our voting process this evening. Is there any further discussion on it? All right, seeing none, it is unanimously so ordered. So we will be adopting option E. So what we will essentially do is begin with the candidates' opening statements. We will not be asking any questions, but after the opening statements, we will fill out our ballots with 5 candidates. Those will be tabulated by the clerk. Then we will narrow it to 5 from there and proceed. So with that, Councilman Benedetti.
So before we get into this, I know I'm going to be that guy. So congratulations to the rest of you. Look, we're doing a process here. We're doing it because there's nothing in writing. There's nothing to tell us how to go through this.
I don't think I was around here the first time this happened, back when Bill and Timber got on there. But I have to say that I think after the last few days of looking at these and looking at the candidates and talking to everybody, and then getting a few phone calls from residents, I have to say that I can live with the process if that's what people pick. But I'm making a motion that we just do what was recommended by some residents. We held an election less than a month ago, or a little over a month ago. There's 4 people that ran. They did the time, they did the legwork, they spent the time, they spent the investment. And a lot of other communities have it already in their charter. And yes, we're going to fix this issue ourselves down the road. But I'm making a motion that we just put Dora in there. She was the only other candidate. She spent the time. I know a couple candidates ran for mayor. That is the choice they made. But I'm making a motion that we just do that and get this over with. It's what I feel is right at this point in time.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor is that to make an appointment for Dora
Yes.
Rodriguez for clarification?
Yep.
Okay, it has been so moved. Do we have a second? Do we have a second? Seeing none, the motion fails.
Yes, if I could
Thank you.
clarify
Councilman
that.
LaFever.
I was here when it happened. I was one of the guys who got put on, okay? But in that year of the election, Timber Bond Crooks came in the next highest vote getter. The city of Trenton did not appoint her.
No.
Okay? We have never appointed the 4th place person, okay? So we have never done it. So there's no precedent to do that. And I understand what Rick's saying, okay? But, and I agree, I think Dora feels strongly about that, okay? And however, I don't. So, I mean, I want to do it the way it's been done in the past.
Sure.
That's how I feel.
Cool. Thank you, Councilman.
Otherwise, Timber would have been here and I wouldn't be here.
You guys can just swap seats or something.
I wouldn't run again.
You could have sat next to me.
Okay.
But here's the deal, Bill, and piggybacking on that, I did come in very strong 4th. But the whole thing now is Open Meetings Act's changed, a lot of things have changed. And yes, I would have, of course, like Dora, I would have probably wanted to be appointed, but it wasn't done like that. And I feel, since it's not been done like that for me, that I came back 2 years later and ran because I really wanted to be on the city council. And for no other reason, I spent the money again. I did it. I've been in primaries where I had to spend money twice. I lost in a recount one time that was botched, and everybody knows it. I mean, I've been through a lot to stay on this council, voice my opinion, take care of the residents that I was duly sworn to do. And I think that we've got 10 great candidates that have come forth here, and I think that they have all are being put through this. And I just think that's, since we decided to do this way, that they should all have a chance to speak. Nothing against Dora at all. I know how she feels. I was in her position. But I agree with you, Bill. I think that if we were going to do that, we should have done it the other night and not put 10 people through all this. So I say carry on and may the best person win. That's it.
All righty. Any further discussion before we move to opening statements here from candidates? All righty. Well, Madam Clerk, who is the first person on the docket for us?
The first,
Yeah, we probably should read it into the record, the order 1 through 9 that we have.
okay, the first speaker will be James Weeks. After James, it will be Ryan Stewart, representative for Robert Howie. Tim Busey, Dora Rodriguez, Bill Jasmine, Scott Cabawatan, Tom Kinney, and David French.
All righty. So the first candidate you said was?
James Weeks.
James Weeks, all right. Mr. Weeks to the podium, and then once you are ready, we will start the timer.
Mayor and council, city administrators, and audience, thank you for this opportunity to speak before you about this open council position. I've only been here 3 years and 8 months, so I'm not a long-serving or long-term resident here. Lived downriver my entire life. Born and raised in Riverview, served on Riverview City Council for 12 years, Mayor Pro Tem 2 years, Zoning Board of Appeals 8 years, or 9 years. In I'd be remiss not introducing my wife. I'm sorry, Judy. This is my wife, Judith Weeks, Sweet Judy Blue Eyes, as she's known as. In 2001, we fell in love and got married, and we had a decision to make whether to live in Riverview or Grosse-Ile. So we had a very long, deep conversation. We compromised, moved to Grosse-Ile. 15 years later, we're living in a condo. Our dog Hiccup is a trainer in Trenton. She posts a picture of a house on Tudor. Judy says, "Hey, I gotta have this house." I'm like, I love the condo. She's like, "We gotta have this house." Long deliberation. We compromised and bought the house. So we've been in Trenton for 4 years. I've been in politics my entire life. So I considered running several times. Several things happened in my life that prohibited me from doing that. In 2016, I had 3 knee surgeries and a knee replacement. 17, I was on the golf course, had appendicitis, and I had, at 62, I had my appendix out. I retired in 17, so my life was in a bit of a turmoil. 18, I unretired and went back to work for 13 months, retired July of this year. I told Judy, okay, I need 2 months off. I've been working 40 years, my entire life. Before I make any decisions on anything, I just need to take a time out. So I considered running for council at that time, chose to honor the commitment to Judy. So I'm the newbie, but I think I bring a long history of public service. Tell you a little bit about my skills. MBA, BBA, accounting. Worked at Ford for 39 years, mostly in accounting, finance, IT, and pension positions. Traveled the world in 1998. I was number 16 in the world flying with Northwest. So I was commuting to Asia while I was a Riverview councilman. So I have this deep, wide swath of knowledge about how things work. I've served on the Guidance Center board for I think 12 years now. Love the Downriver area. Trenton is part of the ecosystem. It's one of the 3 communities I lived in. This is as unique as the other ones are. So why me? That's really the question. So I need to read this. So I'm a finance guy. Bottom line, I live by numbers. And you have to make the numbers work. If you're going to spend the money, you got to raise the funds to pay for what you're doing. Find innovative ways to, I don't know how am I doing on time there?
You're about out, so.
Okay, so 5 words. I mean, I'm a finance guy, I'm fiscally conservative, I'm ready to serve on day one. I'm regionally known by lots of people as a no-nonsense, results-driven guy, and I'm a consensus seeker and a team player. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Weeks. Alrighty. Next up, who is the second
Is
candidate?
Ryan Stewart.
All right, Mr. Stewart. Whenever you were ready, go ahead.
I wanted to thank everybody on the council, all the residents that are here for taking their time to come to this meeting, and thank my fiance Lauren for being so supportive and, my involvement in the Trenton civic process, so to speak. So I want to apologize in advance. I've been feeling a little under the weather, so forgive me for everything that comes with not being able to breathe through my nose.
I understand.
I ran for mayor in the recent election, and so just to sort of summarize the platform and, what drove me to run for an elected position in our community, my family has lived in Trenton for the past 5 generations. I grew up in this city. I went through the public education system. I graduated from Trenton High School, participated in hockey. I've been on the zoning board for just shy of the past 2 years, and so, we recently purchased our first condo in the community. So, it's really exciting to me to have the ability to come up here and speak to you and explain why it is that I'm interested. So, I was inspired to run because our community is on the trajectory to make a decision about reindustrialization or moving towards a different vision for our economy. And so I too am a numbers person. I am not as much about finance as I am about data and trends and analyzing, high-level bird's eye view of the economy and things that impact on a local level. And so when I think of reindustrialization, I look to a lot of other communities in the Midwest who have faced a similar decision about industrialization or reindustrialization. And what we've seen is that a lot of communities that have stuck with industry have been left behind as our economy has moved forward. And so, as a summary, I'm a strong proponent of making sure that our community is able to present and preserve the things that have been impactful to me growing up. Things as small as the green box that I used to play at growing up at Vernon Park when it was the park. So what I bring to the table in terms of strengths is I have experience with strategic business development as an account manager for the world's leading information and news resource. I have experience in nonprofit program development with one of the most successful programs in the country, reducing 30-day hospital readmission rates. I bring an open mind, and so a lot of the feedback that I got on the campaign trail from the residents I met with was that they wished that I had run for city council rather than a mayoral position, because it'd give me the ability to learn from the other individuals in the community, and to sort of present and work my way up, so to speak. So, I'm open to learning. I'm open to feedback. And I thank you all for your time.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next up is R.J. Howie, speaking for his father, Robert Howie.
Hello. For those who don't know, or you guys already know my name, I guess. So unfortunately, my dad, Robert Howie, isn't able to be here this evening. He's spending time with my grandparents out of state. So I'm here to represent him. My dad believes, under the circumstances our community has faced over the past 2 years, or the past 2 weeks, the city needs a knowledgeable person of the community and its past. He believes he is the strongest candidate that would fulfill that role. My dad is a person that lives upon his values. This includes being professional, having integrity, being honest, and hardworking. He has a strong business background and 8 years experience as a former city council person. He has a very thorough understanding of how the city operates and provides the quality of services, including amazing public safety, police and fire, DPW, and recreational services that residents expect. He believes the biggest issue that our city has to face is the financial aspect. Not only do we have to properly maintain roads, sidewalks, and infrastructure, but we must continue to replace them as needed. Soon the city of Trenton will be losing one of the largest industrial tax-based properties for the city as DTE closes, the Trenton Power Plant in 2021. Additionally, the blighted Riverside Hospital properties continues to be an litigation. As we all know, the McCall Steel site has made tremendous remediation progress. It still remains as an unfinished project that is critical for the city of Trenton. An additional challenge is how do we continue to properly fund our pensions with the ARC, retiree healthcare, and OPEB with the limited benefits. As serving on council for 8 years, he has a thorough understanding of how our city's large debt and financial challenges. Aside from being a business owner in our downtown for over 25 years and a father, he is currently a member of the City of Trenton Brownfield Redevelopment Committee, Trenton Business Association, and Trenton Rotary Club. He's been a 2-term past president of the Trenton Hockey Association, past chairman and director of Maha District 2, Trenton DDA president of the Trenton Rotary Club, city representative of SEMCOG, and last but not least, past 2-term Trenton councilperson for the city of Trenton. In closing, as you can see, he's uniquely qualified and possesses many years of experience and institutional knowledge about our great city that most likely other candidates do not have. He understands the governance and challenges facing the city based on his many years of interaction with our department, with the department employees, commissions, boards, and committees. As you know, he recently made a decision not to run for re-election. However, given the tragic loss of Mayor Stack, he felt compelled to answer the call by so many residents, retirees, and employees. Finally, he has also served with the 5 current council members, which will maintain a smooth and cohesive council. Thank you, Mayor, City Council, and residents.
Thank you very much, RJ.
Thank you, RJ.
Did you teach him that?
Our next speaker is Tim Busey.
Yeah.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Busey.
All right, then. I guess you can hear me. I've been living in this city all my life. I'm close to 70 years old. I lived on the other side of the, as we say, on this side of town. I lived on the wrong side of the viaduct for 40 years, but then I moved over onto this side, and now I live on the correct side. It was a little pun in the politics of this town and the citizenry, but during that first 40 years, I went to K through 12 schools in Trenton. Both my parents were teachers. So I got to know people in that side of town and elsewhere as well through my parents. I always was interested in what was going on in this town. I worked over at the Cultural Center for a couple decades as a groundskeeper and a caretaker, and then moved up to the city gardener, I guess, after Larry Ferrani passed. But after that time, I was working on a degree, and I was working as an electrician and a carpenter in various parts of Detroit and southeast Michigan. I then moved over next to Elizabeth Park and purchased a home after leaving the Cultural Center, and do volunteer work in the park since I've moved there with my wife. So I worked as an educator, I worked as a gardener, I worked in construction, I worked in inspection. I've talked to a variety of people in these positions, and having lived in this town my whole life, and kept my hand on what was going on in this city. I haven't been as frequent a visitor to these council chambers as lately, but I have been for the last 40 years, as a couple council members are still here. Were here then. I'm concerned. I decided to show up here because of the direction that we're in a precarious position, I believe. And at this time in my life, I have the time being retired, and I have the energy still to devote to those enterprises, how we deal with McLeod, the former McLeod, how we deal with Riverside Hospital and other vacant property or soon to become vacant property, such as DTE and Solutia. I too, as Ryan mentioned, I have a bias towards moving this town in a direction away from our industrial past and considering the future. And I hope to be able to have an opportunity to work with the people that sit behind that counter there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Busey.
Our next speaker is Dora Rodriguez.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mayor and council members and city administrators and residents. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here. It's unfortunate with the circumstances, and I just want to offer my prayers and condolences to Kyle's family and Jasmine's family. When I set out on this journey to run for city council, it was something that I felt that I wanted to do because I had already been doing the work in our community. For the last 12 and a half years, I've gone door to door, and I've talked to basically almost every person in this community in regards to public policies, candidates, things that are most important to them and their families, in their homes, and out in the community. This is the work that I love. This is the work that I've been doing. And the reason why I do that is because I was born to do it. and I want to serve. I want to serve our community. I serve the members at work. I'm a UAW FPS coordinator, and I serve the persons and the people out in our community and in other communities. I'm also a community organizer. It's something that I want to do in helping people. And the reason also why I do that is because of my own family's journey, that we've been through many tragedies. We've been fortunate enough to where we've had really great health coverage, and we've spent a lot of time in hospitals, and we've seen the suffering of others that don't have the same as we do. That basically changed everything for me in the last 15 to 20 years. And so 12 and a half years ago, I set on a journey to help people. And regardless whether or not I am a chosen candidate today, I will promise you this: I will continue to do the work that I do at work and out in our community. It's something that I love. It's something that I was born to do, and I really help other candidates and other strong policies when I do that. And I already have the community connection with our neighbors, and I've had that for over a decade. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rodriguez. Oops. Is that?
Our next speaker is Bill Jasmine.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This evening we can take a step forward or a step backward. I've spent the last 8 years as a confidant and an advisor for Mayor Stack. I've built relationships with all the developers that have come to town involved in rebuilding this community. I want them all to be successful. I want to make sure that initiatives that were begun under Mayor Stack continue to fruition so that they can become tax-paying participants of our community. To help our city budget, a budget this body will soon be contemplating. We know the challenges that this body will face very well. I spent the first 8 years of my career as an environmental technician on the DTE Energy property and know that site about as good as anyone. I also know there will be some opportunities in the short term if we're willing to work with the company at their discretion. I was quoted in the Detroit Free Press, the former McLeod property sits at 82% complete in its demolishing. This was something that many thought would never happen. Without the bold action of Mayor Stack and her staff and the council, we would never be at this point. One point that no one is stating is the fact that the previous owner sold a riverfront rail access route to the current developer, which would prevent any other kind of development on that property other than industrial. They have a perpetual rail access along the riverfront. And the estimated $150 million to $200 million to dig up and replace the soil on that 180 acres make those other uses of property cost prohibitive. With regard to Riverside Hospital, the prospect of going through the courts and legal system was very frustrating, Mayor Stack, something I never got tired of hearing of. However, if Mayor Stack and the council had not worked the process with the developer, the city would not be in the position that it is in today, with the property in the control of a receiver who will continue to report to the court and to the city, and the city also not being challenged by the developer in court. The final three developments are the John McNally Joe DeSanto Development Company that's developing the Owen School property into 15 to 22 homesteads, the West Jefferson West Road development, and the former Knights of Columbus building on the south end of town. One final development is the Grandy Apartments. I believe that negotiated settlements and agreements are always the best way forward, and I'm proud of the administration that the city unions are all under contract. The management of the city is in good hands and will continue to have its challenges. We are at the end of life with trash trucks that were bought at the beginning of Mayor Stack's first term. Recycling needs to be improved for greater access, and we need to stay the course and support our first responders, who continue to deliver the best response rates in the 9th safest city in the state. I have recently rolled up my sleeves and did 24 hours did service with the Trenton Goodfellows, and I invite all those here to get involved in the community by getting involved in the Goodfellows, the Exchange Club, the Lions Club, or the Trenton Rotary. And I thank you all for your consideration.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jasmine.
Next speaker is Scott Cabowatton.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Cabowatton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Scott Kibblewatton. I'm a 16-year resident of the city of Trenton. Prior to that, I was a resident of Salem Township near Plymouth, as well as Plymouth Township. In my 16 years living here in the city, before my wife brought me, or when my wife brought me down to Trenton, my wife's a longtime resident, actually a lifelong resident of the city of Trenton. I didn't know where Downriver was. So I'm glad she brought me down here. I've learned that Trenton is a wonderful place. I've had the opportunity over the 16 years to become involved in the Planning Commission. Currently, I'm the chairman. I think I've been the chairman now for the Planning Commission for about 3 years. I think I'm wrapping up my third year. I've been on the commission itself right around 8 years, I do believe. In a professional sense, I am currently employed as the Municipal Services Manager for Republic Services. There I manage our government, local government relations in Southeast Michigan and Northwest Ohio. Republic Services is a waste and recycling collection company. Part of my experience with not only Republic but prior employment has been a vast knowledge of municipal services and city works. Prior to Republic, my 15 years with Republic, I spent about 10 plus years, almost 11 years working for the city of Plymouth, where I grew up basically. Soup to nuts, worked in public works, started off as a kid checking licenses and moved my way up into the front office, managing solid waste programs among other infrastructure, road building and water mains, and had an opportunity to learn about many, many different things. That was probably my best government 101 or 200 level class you could ever take. What I bring to the city, number one, is a keen knowledge of municipal operations, not only from a private sector side, but also from sitting in the public sector as well. The Planning Commission has given me a great opportunity to work not only with our planning consultant on issues that some of them that have been talked about tonight, McLouth and rezoning and the Trenton Master Plan, but also I've had an opportunity to work with your staff and administration. And I'll be honest with you, I get to work with a lot of staff and administration throughout my area, and I really do believe Trenton has some of the finest employees and directors and staff members that are out there. They're caring, they're very knowledgeable, and it would be a pleasure to work alongside with them as a councilman. So I'm here for any questions, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kibblewatton.
Next speaker is Tom Kinney.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Kinney.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity for this interview. My name's Tom Kinney. I've been married to my wife Lisa for 13 years, and we have 3 wonderful children, Olivia, Alex, and Peyton. Olivia and Alex are Trenton grads, and Peyton's at the middle school. I most recently have served on the Trenton Board of Education for the last 9 years. I was elected twice. I ran for city council in 2013, which was another historic time there. There was 10 candidates for that race, and it was quite the race, and you know, I'm not sitting there, so we didn't do as well as we would have liked. I most recently ran for mayor in 2019, and during my campaign, I got to talk to a lot of residents and got to hear a lot of their concerns, many of which we heard tonight: McLouth, DTE, Riverside, downtown development, the landfill. And during the summer, I took a tour of the landfill and watched their operation. And as I did my walking and door knocking, I visited many businesses where they were glad to see I was interested in how they were doing, and was glad that I was listening to their ideas and how we could grow. On Monday, you all had certain qualities that you were looking for in a candidate, and I just want to bring a few of those out. Councilwoman Page says she wanted someone with a new vision, and I believe in that. I think we do need a new vision for Trenton. I think we need to promote Trenton as a destination city for businesses and homeowners. I believe we need to build upon what we have going right now, our wildlife refuge, becoming a trail town, and activities and stuff that goes on at Elizabeth Park, and our great city services. I've had the opportunity as being on the board to work with our police department, our fire department, and they are a great group of men and women, and I am so glad and proud that they put that uniform on and represent Trenton. I also, Mr. Peruggi said he was looking for someone with experience. Well, my 9 years on the board, I've worked with budgets, I've worked with negotiations, I've interacted with over 200 employees, I have great communication skills, and I also, being on the board, I respect the seat that I would be sitting in if appointed, and respect the others of the seats that you are sitting in, as we all must work together to bring Trenton to a better place. Mr. LaFever said we needed to finish the projects we already started, and I wholeheartedly agree. We need to get some new tax revenue for the city of Trenton. We need to work on Riverside. We need to keep the wood on the fire. We need to work with McLeod. We need to come up with a plan for DTE, and we need to get things going. Mr. Mayor Rezeppa, I can't remember what he said. But I do know he said I think he said he wanted someone who was dedicated to the city, and I am very dedicated to the city. I've given. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kenny.
The last speaker is David French.
Debbie, are you going to read Dan's? Whenever you're ready, Mr. French.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, Department Heads, Administration, and residents of Trenton, and other candidates. My name is David French. I've been a resident of Trenton. Originally moved here in 1972, the first year that they had Mongwagon open, and continued and graduated from Trenton schools, raised my family here, and then more recently I ran for school board and lost. But I was lucky enough to be sitting there at the table through an appointment very similar to this. Ran again in 2014, and I won that election. My current seat expires the end of 2020, and when this opportunity presented itself, I looked at it as a chance to move into another area of our city and provide the knowledge and the experience that I've gained through my other activities. I was a founding member of the Trenton Educational Foundation. We started with absolutely nothing and grew that into an organization that is providing grants to our students and children in Trenton Public Schools. I stayed involved with my class reunion committee. Certainly, that's, if you've ever been involved in your class reunion committee, you can understand that's very challenging. Not many people want to do that job. I felt it was important to bring our classmates back together. We successfully completed our 40th reunion a couple years ago, and I decided that was enough. Somebody else could handle the reins. My passion for the city of Trenton is it's what I call hometown. This is where I live. This is where I raise my children. I believe in the services that this city provides to its residents. I think it's important to maintain those. I understand the difficulty that we're facing with the DTE property. I'm grateful that we've had movement on the McLeod property. Every time I went to eat at Sibley Gardens, I looked across at that hulk of a shell, and I thought, there's got to be a better use for that land. There's got to be something we can do. I'm grateful to see that's moved forward, and I'd like to help and assist in continuing that endeavor. And find the right types of businesses or development that's going to fit not only that property, but the residents and the needs of the city of Trenton. As far as the DTE property goes, that's very challenging. It's challenging for the school district as well. We are faced with the same concerns. I've read recently that there's some options on the table. DTE might be able to offer the revenue at a different declining rate. So I think it's important that we look at all the options there and come up with a very sound solution for the loss of that tax base. And other than that, I'm a cheerleader. I'm a team player. I work well with others. I've been working with the Trenton School Board, like I said, for 7 years, and we've had great accomplishments and camaraderie. So I thank you for this opportunity to be here tonight, and I do not envy your position in making a decision. After hearing the other candidates speak tonight, I certainly recommend that the decision be made and that you choose the candidate that you feel best fits your city council. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. French. All righty. And then lastly, we had an application from Dan Gillespie, who was unable to be here, but our clerk will actually read his responses to the questionnaire here into the record per request.
So Dan Gillespie is a lifelong resident of the city of Trenton for 65 years. When asked, why do you wish to serve on the Trenton City Council, he replied, I wish to serve on the Trenton City Council because I genuinely enjoyed serving Trenton. To study the issues and projects facing Trenton with an eye toward the future. It is rewarding to work with city personnel, incorporating their knowledge and experience to make Trenton a better place to live. It is gratifying to be part of a motivated and professional team. Qualifications and skills, knowledge, he listed he has been on the Brownfield Authority for 1 year, 2 years on the Traffic Safety Commission, 2 years on the Planning Commission, 10 years Planning Commission Chairman, 12 years as City Councilman. Major issues confronting the City of Trenton are the closing of DTE and the impact on the city budget due to the loss of revenue, 12 years council experience with the budget, the development of McLeod Steel, assure proper land use and zoning. He states he has 12 years' experience on the Planning Commission. Community involvement and activities. He had 4 years as Santa Claus with his wife as Mrs. Claus, downtown Christmas parade. 6 years primary fundraiser for Boy Scout Troop 1721. 10 years contributor for the Trenton Traveling Baseball Team, 15 years volunteered to install and operate the paging and sound system for the Trenton Rotary Roar on the River, Midsummer Festival, and Christmas Parade, and also the Rotary Foundation Paul Harris Fellow. That is what he listed on his application.
Great. Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. So before she passes out the tally sheets here, as part of the option we adopted, we'll just each take our proverbial ballot, put check marks in the boxes of the 5 candidates we want to advance to the questioning round. But I just wanted to reiterate, really, no matter what happens tonight, we're going to upset 9 people and probably a whole lot more than that. And that it's like truly a shame because this is, throughout this process, it was much worse than I anticipated. But at the end of the day, that it really showed me that we should have an appreciation for the amount of qualified and committed people that we have in our community. That literally there can be a case made for every single person who's submitted an application here, and I think that that's something that everyone in this room and everyone in our community has a lot to be proud of here. So that's all I have to say. I don't know if any other council members had comments. I don't want to get into questions of candidates or anything like that, but. Councilman LaFever.
Just on the voting system, this isn't, we're going to have one vote and have a new member, are we? That's just who gets to talk, right?
Yeah, this is just to narrow it down to 5 candidates. Correct. Yep, and then we'll begin to ask questions from there.
We'll vote later on tonight. We'll vote later on.
For a final vote, correct. Yep, this is just, so I think it specifies it in here. Oh, go ahead, Administrator Church.
Just to clarify, under option E, each council member votes for 5 candidates. And under option E, candidates who have check marks in at least 4 ballots of the 6 mayor and council members will advance for further consideration. So it will be no more than 5. It could be less than 5.
And they're going to be public, you're going to read those votes out publicly?
It's my understanding from the city attorney that must be a public reading. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Put a check mark next to 5 names.
Yeah, so if you mark and check mark or an X next to 5 names, submit those to the city clerk, and then we'll read those and tally those votes.
All right, take a moment to deliberate. Yeah, I think so. I think that, as Administrator Church has said, that one clarification point we should probably have is no one would formally be eliminated until the actual appointment is made. If things go super south and we say, okay, never mind, the first person that got eliminated ends up getting it. So this isn't by any means a sort of final vote, too, until that won't come, knock on wood, until the end of the evening.
If you want to confirm that with Wally. Rules for 6? Rules for 6? Can't do that.
You guys all voted for 9, too?
Yeah.
12. Had it right in.
That is correct. You're excellent.
Okay.
You're outside the box.
All right, do we have all the forms in?
Yes.
All right, Madam Clerk, I will turn it over to you.
All right. Vaughn Crooks, Scott Cabowatten, Robert Howery, William Jasmine, Dora Rodriguez, James Weeks.
Who was that?
Benedetti.
Hold on, please. I'll repeat them just to make sure I mark these correctly.
Okay.
Votes were for Scott Cabowatten, Robert Howie, William Jasmine, Dora Rodriguez, James Weeks.
Correct. Benedetti, Scott Cabowatten, David French, Robert Howie, Dora Rodriguez, James Weeks.
That is Scott Cabowatten, David French, Robert Howie, Dora Rodriguez, James Weeks.
Correct. LaFever, Scott Cabowatten, Robert Howie, William Jasmine, Thomas Kinney, Dora Rodriguez.
Scott Cabowatten, Robert Howie, William Jasmine, Thomas Kinney, Dora Rodriguez.
Correct. Pate, Scott Cabowatten, Robert Howie, Thomas Kinney, Brian Stewart, James Weeks.
Scott Cabowatten, Robert Howie, Thomas Kinney, Ryan Stewart, James Weeks.
Correct. Perugi, Scott Cabowatten, Robert Howie, William Jasmine, Thomas Kinney, James Weeks.
Scott Cabowatten, Robert Howie, William Jasmine, Thomas Kinney, James Weeks.
Correct. Rezepa, Scott Cabowatten, William Jasmine, Dora Rodriguez, Ryan Stewart, James Weeks.
Scott Cabowatten, William Jasmine, Dora Rodriguez, Ryan Stewart, James Weeks.
That is correct.
If you want to tally up the...
Thank you.
Yes, there are five.
Okay, so the 5 candidates moving forward will be Scott Cabowatten, Robert Howie, William Jasmine, Dora Rodriguez, and James Weeks.
Alrighty.
Did you want to?
Sorry to say, so Weeks, Jasmine, Cabowatten. So just for clarification, just to make sure I got that right, it was Robert Howie, William Jasmine, Scott Cabowatten, Dora Rodriguez, James Weeks.
It is Scott Cabowatten, Robert Howie, William Jasmine, Dora Rodriguez, and James Weeks.
Alrighty, so we have our tentative 5 here. So I think, and I guess this will be, because this isn't sort of outlined in the procedure, but at the will of the council here, would we like those 5 candidates to also draw numbers again for questioning? And then we can each ask a question of the council people, or of the applicants, I'm sorry, from the council people. If a council person wants to make a motion to adopt that process. I think
Support.
and moved and supported to ask the candidates to poll numbers again, and have one question each from each of the members of council. So if the 5 mentioned wanted to come down to draw numbers, that'd be great.
1 second.
RJ,
Thank you.
make your day proud, man. Really.
I liked RJ.
Thank you. RJ, you're number 2. You're up. Thank you.
What number you'll be? Seen her before. Didn't know his name.
Thank you.
His wife, that's here. No. Didn't know her name.
I'm in Bob's wife, Karen. That's RJ's girlfriend. He's the woman. That's Bob's wife. Karen's not here, is she? No. How do we ask RJ? She's RJ. He's all women. Steven, don't bring that out either. That's not his wife.
Sure, yeah, if you don't mind, Madam Clerk, thank you.
Okay.
List the order here.
The order will be James Weeks, Robert Howie, Bill Jasmine, Dora Rodriguez, and Scott Cabalotton.
Alrighty, so Mr. Weeks, if you wanted to take the podium here. So, I guess, unless there's any opposition to doing this in terms of order, I know that we could just go by my other council business order, which I know I left Rick was the first one last time. So, Bill, I think that would make you the first question, give you the first question for this one, and we will rotate.
Are we going to vote on that?
We can if you want.
I don't want to be last every time.
Transparency.
So yes, if you wanted to ask the first question, Bill, you can be our guest.
Before he talks? I'm just going to ask him right now.
Yeah, we already got the speech.
Today would be good.
It would be good. Nelson's feeding me the information, okay? Where is he? Oh, he's up there. I know you've been active in the communities, okay?
Yes, sir.
When you were in Grossfield, do you belong to their conservatory group over there?
So I did not.
Thank you very much.
I was on the Brownfield Commission. I was on the Grosedale Airport Commission.
Thank you very much. And thanks for the guidance service, the guidance clinic.
Absolutely.
Is that it? Nelson?
Is there more than one question or just one question?
Just one.
Just one.
That's fine, make sure, that's fine. When you ask him if he's done.
Yeah, he has 5 of ours. Don't worry.
1A, 1B, 1C,
I
1D.
did
yeah.
Nelson's and Wendy's. Okay.
Yeah,
They're
okay.
done.
Mr. Weeks,
Yes, sir.
when you were in Riverview as a councilman, were you ever faced with a position to where you had to raise taxes?
So we were never in that position. Riverview, actually, when I came into council, we hadn't saved any money for the land preserve. And so when we changed the rate structure, we set up this environmental escrow account to fund post-closure, and then a third of it we also transferred to the general fund to handle rolling stock, to handle a lot of the sort of infrastructure in the city. So while we were growing, we were also using land preserve money as sort of our actual industry, because that was bringing revenues into the city, and we set up a policy in terms of how we move funds from the land preserve into the general fund. So it subsidized probably 30% of the general fund, but we looked at that was our biggest industry, and that should make some contribution, and we set up a structure to do such.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Pate.
Hi, Jim. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've already learned about Trenton so far and some of the things that you've done in the past week?
So I've been on lots of boards, lots of commissions, done lots of things. And I always think when I join the board or the commission, I'm going to make this huge impact. My takeaway in virtually everyone is you've got trained professionals that are out of this world. You've got people in the structure that have a deep passion for the city. And so quite honestly, I find I probably get more than I give. But my takeaway is living in Trenton for the 4 years, great city services. You call DPS or DPW and say, hey, I got a tree problem. They schedule it. I mean, really efficient in terms of delivery of services. Everyone on this dais has a passion for Trenton. And when you have a passion for things, you can get things done. And I'm the same way. I want to get some of these projects over the finish line, but you do it collectively. You do it in a consensus. There's not one person. I'm a kind of we person, not a me person. So it's been a pretty interesting week. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilwoman Von Crooks.
Yeah, hi, Jim. One of my main concerns is carrying out some of the things that my good friend Kyle Stack, initiated along with this council. But the one concern I have is McCall Steel. And how do you feel about McCall Steel? And do you feel that it should be an industrial site and move forward and creating a lot of jobs and whatever? Or do you feel that it should be a butterfly farm and a unicorn park?
So Crown Enterprises, they're really a frenemy. I've had dealings with them in Riverview when they set up their railroad. They have a plan. They may have shared it with you. They may not have shared it with you. They know exactly what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. I think we have to be ahead of that curve, and we have to guide them to some middle ground. It's not going to be a golf course. It's not going to be a butterfly garden.
Right.
It's going to be something pretty serious. And I think we collectively, we being local, state, county, we're all going to have to figure out what's the right solution, because this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to reshape this area. So let's, to me, when I was on Review Council, I didn't spend a lot of time on the transactional stuff. I wanted to spend time on the strategic stuff, the things that made huge differences in the community, and I think this is an opportunity.
Good, thank you, because I'm concerned about that site and that,
we should be.
It's torn down, remediated, developed, and I want somebody who's on board with that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman.
Thanks.
Councilman Benedetti.
So Nelson alluded to the question I was going to ask a little bit about taxes, and you answered it where in Review you didn't have to do those things. But compare the services to Trenton, and we may have to do that. Are you able to make that decision to say, if we keep Trenton the way it is, we have to figure out a way and convince the residents the right thing to do?
So we have to
Or do we cut services? Which one?
So there's never a binary choice on these things. First of all, you have to be courageous to spend, and you have to be courageous to fund it. And so you have to do the right thing. So you have to build a business case if you're going to raise taxes. Or I think part of this whole equation is our world's changing, right? IT's changing everything. And so I think one of my views would be we want to task the administration to find creative, cost-saving solutions to deliver great services at a reasonable cost. And once again, it's not one person that does it. We collectively have to do it. And there are solutions out there. So I'm open-minded, but I'll be very honest. I am not afraid to raise taxes. If we say this is the project that's important for our future, then we sell that to our community. We don't deficit spend. Sometimes you have to, but overall, you can never do that. You can't spend your way out of problems. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. So I guess I'm picking up the tail here. So my one question, it's sort of similar to Councilman Benedetti's, is last, and Bill, you would know, correct me if I'm wrong, last budget session we began with it was $1.2 to $1.3 million deficit at the start of the budget session. And yeah, creative was a way we had to get. But this time around, it's going to be much higher than that due to some DTE tax fund. But so we're going to be looking at a major deficit to start. And I think that whether it be based on your experiences in Riverview or your experiences here in Trenton, are there any proverbially low-hanging fruit or ideas that you would have out of the gate to say that, whether that be on the revenue side or expenditure side, to help address that budget shortfall?
I'll be very honest. I'm the newbie here. So there's really no hanging fruit. You guys are smart people. You do the right thing. You know the
Don't give
numbers.
us too much credit, come on.
No, seriously. What I would like to do is meet with all the department heads and unleash their knowledge, right? They know the things that work, the things that don't work, some of the things that are sacred cows that you have to address. So my leadership style is listen, learn, and lead, and I generally don't get that order wrong. So the first thing I'm going to do is talk to the people who know the city and how it operates. And you know, I listen. That's the key to this business, as you know.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
All right, we appreciate it, Mr. Weeks. All righty, Madam Clerk, what's next?
Okay.
Mr. Howie's.
Oh, I'm sorry. Next up is R.J. Howie, speaking on behalf of his father.
How's he going to answer?
Mike, let me ask him this question.
It'll be fun.
Yeah.
Test him.
He's here for it.
He's a smart kid. He'll probably answer him, don't worry.
Yeah. RJ, there's going to be a problem if you have better ideas than your dad.
No, you could beat Steven and be the youngest person on council.
Nelson?
Okay. Thanks, Rick. Hi, RJ.
How's it going?
I don't know how much your father shared with you, and I'm going to ask you a difficult question, and you can take it back to him. As I asked Mr. Weeks, would your father be willing to raise taxes? And if you don't have an answer, don't make one up.
Well, I mean, I can't speak for my dad, so
Okay.
I don't know.
I just didn't know how much he prepared, and I thought that was the question I would ask your father if he were here.
Councilwoman Pate?
Hi, RJ. Thanks for being here. I am wondering what you think, or, well, I guess I could say it this way. What are you most proud of in what your dad has accomplished for Trenton?
Well, I mean, he's extremely hardworking. He's been on the 2 terms of council already, and I don't know.
Thank you.
You're doing great, buddy. Councilwoman Von Crooks?
Yeah, I think the whole Howie family loves Trenton, and you guys are an example of just what the Howie family does. And I think, you know, your dad has a lot of integrity, and he puts his family first. And you can contest to that, I'm sure. So your dad, I know to believe that he is very fiscally responsible, and he's always worried about our budget and us overspending. So I think I can speak for him, that he is really concerned about the budget and where the pensions are going, where our budget's going. And you can probably take that back to him, because that's probably what he'd say.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, RJ.
Yep.
Councilman Benedetti?
I'll make it easy on you, RJ. Are you hoping your dad gets it?
Yes.
Okay.
Good question. I don't have any questions, because I think you answered all the hard ones here. So I just want to tell you that you're doing a great job, buddy.
Thank you.
And then last but certainly not least, Councilman LaFever. He's going to give you the real hard one.
His favorite council person. When he was 4 years old, I met RJ at the pool. He came up to me and asked me if I'd watch him go down the slide. Now, I can't swim. Okay, this strange kid wants me to watch him. I go, oh my gosh.
You said yes?
Yeah, I said, why? I said, you don't even know who I am. He said, no, you're Mr. Mayor. I said, I'm Mr. Mayor? So we became good friends from then. And the fact that your dad sent you down here tonight is a really special thing, okay? That tells me how much your dad is, and you do an awesome job. And someday, you're going to be up here and taking away his seat as the youngest mayor in the city of Trenton, and that'll be you, RJ.
Thank you.
But
You can have it right now if you want.
RJ, if you want, I'm glad you brought your wife down tonight. It shows me a lot of class. I didn't mean to I was picking. I love you. Okay, thank you, RJ, and thanks for bringing Connor's girlfriend down here tonight.
Great job, RJ. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Our next speaker is Bill Jasmine.
Councilwoman Payton, we'll
Good evening.
lead this one.
Hi, Bill. I'm wondering, since you do have such experience with DTE, what is the specific project that you would like to see the current facility replaced with?
Well, for one thing, DTE is still going to be operating the site for another 2 years.
In the future.
And generally, DTE does not release those properties until they're done with all usable uses of the property, which includes electrical switching, steam supply to Solutia. It could be 5 to 10 years. Now, I do think that the property could be repurposed into some kind of community fair, would you say? Maybe even a potential for an amphitheater, maybe a new police and fire station there. on that property. I think there's a lot of different uses for that property, and if we deal with DTE properly, maybe some of that could come sooner than later.
Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Councilwoman Von Crooks?
Yeah, hi, Bill. What's your greatest motivation to run for council? I mean, I know you're involved in every single thing in the community. You annoy me with all that stuff you try to do and make me do and help you, but what's your greatest concern?
From 1996 to 1994 to 2004, I was on the DTE PAC board. And in 2002, both the Democratic Party and the Republican Party came to our board asking us to run for the state house. And I've been interested in politics for a long time. I'm a long-time political fundraiser ever before I met Kyle. And through our marriage, Kyle and I always had an agreement that I would not run for an office while she held office. So that was always, so I've always wanted to run. I just was in a position I couldn't because Kyle was holding office, and now that Kyle's no longer in office, I have the freedom to seek office.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you very much. Councilman Benedetti?
Well, I'm going to ask the same question as I asked Mr. Weeks. So you've known the deficit we're running into. You know where we're headed. Stephen brought it up a little bit, too. How do we fix it? Do we raise taxes? Do we look at cutting services? What do we do?
I think it's got to be a balance of both. You have to look at both. We can't cut services too much or we'll endanger the public safety, but we also have to work with the community, educate the community about the need for a tax increase if we're going to have a tax increase. And I think we have to be open to both possibilities.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you very much. My question is going to be quite similar as the same one that I had before. We're looking at probably a $2 million deficit to start the year. What, if any, ideas do you maybe you have right out of the gate that could help address that, whether it be on the revenue side or expenditure side?
Well, having taken a full look at the expenditure side, I would not be part and party to that.
Sure.
The revenue side, like I said, we're kind of in a difficult spot with revenue too, because with the school board going out and seeking two different large-sized tax millages for improvement of schools, which were drastically needed, it puts the city in a tougher position to try to go out and get a millage too. We're going to have a strong case and hope that nobody comes out against it.
Sure. Thank you very much. Councilman LaFever.
Yeah, Bill, you've been around a long time, and a pretty smart guy, okay? So you're looking here, like, it's very similar, they say, do you see us, $2 million scares me. It scared me last year when Karen and I met, okay? It's very, very scary, okay? We've got young people up here, okay? I mean, can you be more specific what you think? Is there any way, anything at all you think we can look at to save money? Just any item that you have, or Kyle may have told you, or something else that she's looking for doing, would it be?
There was nothing that she approached me about on financials for the city. Like I said, until we can get into and taking a look at some of the accounts, some of the places we're using money, it's hard to say where you cut and what you cut. But we also have to challenge our department heads to come up with those ideas themselves, too. We have very skilled people as department heads. They're very bright. They know what's on the line, too. Use their brain power, too.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilman Perugia.
Yes. Bill, are most of your ideas, and please don't take this to be offensive, going to be generated by something that you want? Or are you trying to live through the legacy of what Kyle wanted?
Some of the things, particularly, I didn't quite get to talk fully about the potential for a recycling center. I think we still need to make some improvement in the recycling area, and that is someplace that we've talked about as something that's different than Kyle wanted. But don't get me wrong, there's some things Kyle put in motion that I'd like to see finished. I'd like to see Riverside finished. Get to a conclusion with that. I'd like to see McLouth get to some movement of development. So that was the next phase of what's going to happen with that property in reality. They're going to have the main building down by February, and we're going to need development on that property to help bring revenue into the city.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilman. Thank you very much, Bill.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Madam Clerk.
Next is Dora Rodriguez.
So this time we will begin with Councilwoman Von Crooks.
Yeah, Dora, you're really involved heavily with the UAW.
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Explain to our residents how that makes you qualified to run for council and what what your passion is there.
One of the biggest things that I do on behalf of the members, I'm on the run for them every day, and I also help the salary side in fixing and continuous improvement. My day is different every day. It depends on what the teams are needing, whether they're needing a bay door that needs to be fixed because it's a health and safety and a fire door, whether they may be exposed to hazardous materials for too long. It's different. It could be anything between, having a stall bathroom door fixed, having a new heater placed, and I also work with the skilled trades reps and the skilled trades workers too. So my day is different every day.
Okay, besides the union work that you do, can you look at both sides of the aisle? Can you work with the Dems and the Republicans at the same time and
Yes.
come to some solutions here?
Yes, I can do
In
that.
other words, support the business guy, the small business. that
That's
might
what I
not
do
be
in my
union.
job. My job is I work with hourly and I work with salary. My job is to help find the solution, get the teams to work together.
Okay.
All of us come together, work together, and find a solution to the problem. That is my job.
Okay.
That's the job that I do every day. It does not matter what side of the aisle anyone is on, but that is my job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Benedetti.
So, here we go again. So if the services, everybody talks about the services we offer, they're second to none. And everybody that's up here and all of us that are up on this side of the table, we all pride ourselves on the fact it's Trenton.
Yes.
And you know where I came from, and I believe we do offer the best services. But
do.
to do that, if we have to raise taxes, are you willing to be able to do that? Are you able to explain to the people, this is what we have to do?
I already talked to our neighbors about that while I was out on the doors. We did over 4,000 doors. I remind you, 2,356 people that voted for our team. They knew that I was being honest with them. They knew the challenges that we were facing. And I asked them if they had to do that, if they were okay with that I would go door to door with all the city workers, police and firefighters, DPW, everyone. They had no problem with that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
And I would also like to add to that fact, too, that we also need to look into also putting the raising of the taxes on the businesses, too. We can't always let everything fall on the back of the citizens and the workers. We have above par emergency services. Everyone that works for the city, it's amazing what we have, and we want to keep that. We do not want to turn our backs on anyone. We want to support each other and take care of each other, and that means that the businesses need to do that, too. We need to create revenue for that to sustain a lot of our pension costs and retiree costs and healthcare costs. So yes, those are the things that I was talking with our neighbors about out on the doors already.
Thank you very much, Councilman. My question will be the same as well. With probably almost $2 million budget deficit to start the process here, are there any ideas you have out of the gate, either on the revenue or expenditure side, that we could start doing to alleviate some of that burden?
Well, I definitely think that we need to look at our shared revenue costs. We need to be taking a look at that, making sure that we're getting the piece of the pie that we're supposed to be getting from the state. We do know that there was a situation where a lot of the schools did not get what they were supposed to be doing. That was in a lawsuit, but the judge also said that we weren't allowed to get any of that money back. That then from there forward, that they would make sure that they got the costs that they needed refunded back to them. Those are the things that we really need to take a look at. We need to look at the shared revenue costs and making sure that our city is getting what they are required. And we also need to take a look at the fact that whether or not we need to, and if we are able to, raise certain taxes on goods here in our city. Those are some of the things that we need to seriously sit down and talk about and look at everything that we can do based under the state treasury.
Great, thank you. Councilman LaFever.
I'll apologize ahead of time before I say anything. Okay, if I make you mad, just tell me or tell. Anyway,
Bill, you always make me laugh.
the very first time I met her was over at the Union, they call it Union Hall or the Home, whatever you call it.
Yeah, you're in my house.
Was I? Yeah, your house, her house. Was that her house? And I went in for my interview, and they said, will you vote for Dora? I said, Dora? I said, she's running against you. I said, absolutely not. Why would I vote for Dora? That's why I wouldn't vote for you. Okay. All right. I didn't really know who you were. We talked, all right? And then I met you on Election Day. I enjoyed my time I spent with you.
Yes, we had a good
Very
time.
knowledgeable person, had a good
Thank
time.
you.
Here's my concern, is that I'm a TV watcher, okay? I go home
Okay.
and put the news on, and for the last 5 weeks, all I've heard is about the impeachment, okay? And I just can't figure it out. When the vote came, all the Democrats voted to impeach. Republicans voted not to impeach. Now, what do you think is going to happen the next 2 or 3 weeks when the Senate holds their trial? What's the vote going to be then?
To be honest, Bill, I haven't even been watching that because my concern has been on my father who's been ill, and my concern has also been on the UAW members. So I haven't really been watching a lot of federal and state politics.
I guess my concern is we've never been partisan in the city of Trenton. We've always been nonpartisan. Didn't matter what party you belong to, okay? Or who you were. Go ahead.
I am willing to work with all sides of the aisle.
Okay.
That is something that I chose to do when I learned and was going out organizing in Michigan. I was organizing in Kentucky, Mississippi, and Indiana. My job and my public work that I do is working to take care of people. It does not matter if we agree in regards to our personal and private voting. And I really feel that you're not being fair asking me that question because 2,356 of our neighbors voted for what I stood for, and I stand for we, us, and our, and that's who I am, that's in my heart, and that is my journey and my work that I've been doing for the last 12 and a half years.
You wouldn't hold any grudges against Republicans, Democrats, or anybody?
I don't hold grudges in regards to that. People have the right to their own opinion on how they're going to vote. That's just the bottom line. But I do take offense that you're asking me that question and you did not ask anyone else that. But I will not hold a grudge on that. I know exactly what needs to be done. I know exactly what it takes to take care of people. And it's not about who votes on what side of the aisle. I've been walking these doors for over 12 and a half years throughout southeastern Michigan and here in our city. I know exactly how our neighbors feel about stuff. There are folks that when I've been on the door, they're independent or they're Republican, and I'm there on the door for Darren, or I'm there on the door for Stephen, or I'm there on the door for Whitmore or anyone else. The conversations that I have with our neighbors are about the most important things that are to them in their home and out in their community. And sometimes those issues surpass no matter what side of the aisle that you're on, and that's what you're not seeing. It's not whether or not you're a Republican, independent, or a Democrat. It's about what's the most important thing is for you and your family.
Good.
And that's the bottom line.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Councilman Peruggi.
Thank you, Stephen. Hi, Dora.
Hi.
What would be the number one thing you would try to do to generate revenue for the city?
Again, I would go back, I would want to look at the budget, take it apart piece by piece, see if we're hemorrhaging, losing any money in regards to any contracts, outsourcing that we have. Take a look at our spending in regards to how much we're spending on electricity. Do we also need to update in regards to our energy? And then also have some conversations with some of the city workers to see exactly what is it that they need and try to be able to budget everything correctly and making sure that we're sustainable, and also look at grants and funding. Looking at those. I know that we have a lot of residents, a lot of neighbors that really, really want curbside recycling. I would love to have curbside recycling, but we're not going to be able to afford it. If we can find a grant and fund it that way, but we have to make sure that we're sustainable afterwards, because we have to worry about the cost for the trucks. We have to worry about the maintaining of the vehicles. We have to worry about the manpower hours, and we also have to worry about the skilled trade hours and fixing those. So everything needs to be looked at. We need to look at everything piece by piece.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman Pate.
Hi, Dora.
Hi, Wendy.
In the short term, financial problems we have, I also look at our town in a more futuristic fashion. Our Trenton Coast Master Plan gives us a map for sustainability and resiliency. So one of the things I ran on is making Trenton a destination town.
Yes.
Do you have any specific projects or ideas that you feel would help contribute to that I would like to work on that you could help me with?
Well, I can tell you when I was doing door-to-door and I was talking to our neighbors, one of the biggest things were the fact that our bridges, we need to take a look at the bridge right there on West Road. They're really upset that they can't ride their bikes safely on there. They feel that we need to take a look at that and see if we can widen the area where the walk area is and see if we can actually find some funding in that, federal funding or state funding. Also looking at some of the alleys, making sure that they're repaved. Some of them were, but they were graded up and over. I believe there was some work that was done during the time of the election or right after. So I think that we really need to have some city halls with our residents to really take a look and see if the infrastructure part of it and the pavement issues are the most important thing for them. We already know that greenery and green space is important to them too, but we also have to sustain and worry about whether or not if DTE is going to be able to repurpose. Having that strong conversation with them if they're still going to be able to, and if they will be responsible to pay for some of their tax-based revenue that they've been paying. We also have to worry about Riverside Hospital and see exactly what's going to go on with that in regards to the plan.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rodriguez.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Madam Clerk.
I'm sorry, next to Scott Cabowatton.
Oh, you probably figured that out anyways.
Yeah, I was waiting for, numbers 5 and 6 to come up too, yeah.
So I think we begin with Councilman Benedetti on this one.
It's my turn. Well, I'll do the same. So Stephen's talked about it, I've talked about it, other people have talked about it. We're headed into an issue of trying to figure out how to balance a budget, and it's not $500,000, it's $2 million. Out of close to almost a $20 million budget, so that's a big hack. Like somebody said to me today, and I don't remember who it was I was talking to. It's the easy way to fix it is do away with the department. Well, we can't do that here.
That's not
We
realistic.
offer services, that's not the right way to do it. Ms. Rodriguez made some comments about, going to the employees, doing those things like that. We've been down that road. We've been doing this for, let's see, Kyle was there 8 years, and Jerry was there for almost 10, so we've probably been working on this about 16 years. And I think we're at our limit where we can keep asking employees, so, do you think raising the taxes and convincing the residents to keep the services the way they are is something we could do? And do you have a problem with doing that?
If it's absolutely necessary, Councilman, then yes, I'm in support of it. And I'm going to blend your answer in with a couple other questions that have been asked tonight, because I think it's coming down the line. But before, that in my book is last resort. I think that again, I'm going to restate that you have a wonderful administration. Your leadership here is second to none. Lean on your department heads, and I don't like to use that word lean, but rely on your department heads and your administration to come back with, maybe there are some ways that we can look at things differently by still providing the same services. Shortfalls may be there and obvious, but also it may not mean a staffing cut. There may be partnerships available through collaboration with neighboring communities. You may be able to say, okay, we're going to take on service XYZ, and we're going to take that on for a community to the east of us, a community to the south of us, whatnot. Doesn't necessarily mean that we would get rid of service or have to raise taxes, but there could possibly be a way to, and it's premature for me to say at this point, here's what we're going to do, because quite honestly, whether it's wrong on me or right on me, I haven't looked at the budget. I haven't dissected it, so it's I can't tell you what the P&L looks like, but there's possibly other ways. To answer your question, if in fact we need to raise taxes in order to maintain services, That's what we have to do, and that's the very last resort. That's what we have to do. I mean, Trenton is branded by the services we provide. I've heard that for 17 of the 16 years I've lived here. Remember, 17 years. I heard it for a year before I even moved down here. When I was dating my wife. So, my girlfriend at the time. So, yeah, I mean, if we need to do it, yes, I'm in support of it. But, because I think we need to maintain services. So, long answer short.
No, cool, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Benedetti. As you probably guessed, my question's quite similar. With a potential $2 million budget shortfall, are there any things that you've seen from being a resident in the community that might be some, quote-unquote, low-hanging fruit, whether it be on the revenue or expenditure side, or anything that, I guess, from the same token, from your experiences working in Plymouth or, with a variety of communities all across Michigan, that you'd like to see implemented here that you think would be beneficial?
So, kind of on the same thing, Mayor. Every community is different, from the size, from the tax revenue that you receive, to your expenditures. So it's hard for me to say, right now, we need to do this and we need to do that. That's not fair to me. That's not fair to, quite honestly, the administration or anybody else. Reasonable question, but just it's for me, it's a challenging question to answer accurately. I think looking at other communities, I've seen collaboration work with other communities. Specifically one, their fire department, 20 years. Collaborative fire department between the two. Recently, they split off. It just didn't work anymore. So, what may work for one community may not work for another. What may not work up in Western Wayne County may work perfectly here. It's really a matter of getting into the books and understanding the budget and understanding the expenditures. And truly, it's your staff and administration that's going to be pivotal to aiding in that. So, I mean, as council people, you don't run the day-to-day stuff. That's why you have administration. And I would not recommend council people running, no offense, but I would,
Trust
at least
me,
in my role, I would not feel comfortable going and jumping in and running a department. Not that I couldn't do it, I could do it, I'm very comfortable in doing it, but that's not my role. That's not why you sit up there. You sit up there as guidance and kind of that, when something's brought to you and you look at it and here's the plan, and then, it either hits you right in the gut or sometimes it doesn't, and that's where you pull from your mental bank and say, I know this was done over here, and maybe we can talk to this community, or maybe we can talk to this community, or Michigan Municipal League, or township associations. Pull from the angles we can pull from to be successful. We don't always have to reinvent the wheel.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilman LaFever.
Mine's a pretty tough question for you. You don't have to answer, okay? So
Okay.
I'm afraid to say I'm not
All
going
right,
to.
hold on, let me brace myself.
Being as knowledgeable as you are in the trash and recycling business, okay? My wife, if you don't know her, you do know her, that's the deal. She's a fanatic for recycling.
Yes.
Okay? I explained to her it's $18 a ton for trash, $118 for recycling. Okay? Once a week, I still have to haul the recycling down to the recycling center, okay? I said, you keep doing that, I'm gonna lay off 2 policemen, okay? Because the cost of it, okay? If you were in the city council, and you had to vote today to get into curbside recycling, hire somebody to do it, would you do that? Or would you try and encourage people just to bring it down to the, or not have any recycling at all? If you don't want to answer that, I respect that too.
I want to answer it, but I'm just trying to think, what would I do? That's a real tough question, quite honestly. In the first part, I'm a big supporter of public safety and public services in general. So I think, quite honestly, we need to really, part of being successful, I think, is, and this will probably bite me at some point in time, maintaining the level where we're at, right? Now, I'm not saying status quo is always great, but I think in this case, the city services that we deliver, most cities are here, communities are here. I really do. I look at other communities, and your services are right up here. So to put a dent in that and bring it down, a little bit here, I'm not in favor of that. Again, what can we do to bring recycling to the city? It's an expensive endeavor. Recycling is an expensive endeavor. Dora candidate Rodriguez mentioned it just a few minutes ago. I mean, there's lots of moving components to that. I echo that as a professional in the industry. I quite honestly think, and this sounds silly, but what does the community really, really want? And then it goes back to, maybe we do provide curbside collection and do a special assessment to each household. Maybe we do curbside, or have curbside collection and, go for that tax increase for taxes. I mean, I'm not in favor of necessarily laying off public safety officials or officers and firemen and policemen, but, or police people and fire people. But that's that's tough to add one thing and pull away from another.
Thank you very much for attempting to answer that.
In a roundabout way.
You did good.
Great, thank you, Bill. Councilman Peruggi.
Scott, we've talked about low-hanging fruit, we've talked about the tax, or the deficit we are potentially facing. Is there one thing that you have in mind that would generate some revenue outside of trying to balance the books? I mean, what do you have that you think would generate revenue?
Again, I don't know what your expenditures are. And, also, I mean, I think shared services may be an answer. It very well may be some of your answers. It could be sewer cleaning. I mean, you could look at sewer cleaning services and television services for the sewers, because that's typically done by Public Works, and whether that's under contract or done in-house. But maybe there's an opportunity there's a little bandwidth there, and maybe some expansion opportunity to go ahead and partner with another community on that. Maybe it's in the maintenance shop, or your fleet shop. Maybe some of that work is brought in-house and charged out to a neighboring community that maybe doesn't have the advantage of having a mechanic on site and has to use third-party maintenance shops or mechanic shops. You have a wastewater treatment plant. Is there some kind of extra capacity within that plant that you could use to process, materials at that, or liquid material at that plant, and charge that for a fee? I mean, I know there's opportunities out there for wastewater treatment plants to gain revenue. I talked to some in Ohio. I talked to some here in Michigan. I do know there's opportunities there for kind of like special type liquid waste and stuff like that. But there are some opportunities. That's not all of them. And I'm not saying those would all work. I'm just throwing some gum at the wall, and maybe something would stick.
Okay, thanks.
Yes.
Just gum?
For right now, we're going to stick with gum.
Councilwoman Pate.
Hi, Scott. So because you're on the Planning Commission, you're very aware of all the zoning issues along the waterfront. And I have two questions for you, but I'm going to try and marry it into one, and let's see if it makes sense. But how important to you is the development of the waterfront for also encouraging young families to move to Trenton and stay in Trenton?
I think I look at, as I said, I look at some communities all over the place, but, Western Wayne County has some really nice communities, and Downriver has some really nice communities. I think the difference between the two is, quite frankly, is the asset that we have right here. It's that waterfront. I'm directionally challenged tonight, but I'm going to say it's that way, right? and you have access. I have friends that live out in Canton and Plymouth that, they'd love to be able to be 5 minutes away from the water and be able to jump on a boat and, go wherever out and go fishing and enjoy that resource that we have. I think access to the waterfront is key to the success of a community. I think if we could have some, with future projects, maybe not ones that are currently in the works, but, you never know what opportunities are going to come up, and maybe there's an opportunity to do some mixed development on the waterfront. make it more of a destination. You do already have, or you're going to have, what I believe come May, access to the wildlife refuge, which is going to be a big hit. I really do believe that, and I think you can expand upon that kind of in other areas and waterfront access. I'm not saying the whole thing needs to be a marina. I'm not saying the whole waterfront needs to be a marina, but it does, I think, with younger families, with folks that want to be more active in the outside and more outdoorsy, as I say. Kayak launches are big, and I know Gibraltar has one. I think Trenton has one now over at Elizabeth Park. But things like that, access to the waterfront is a key thing.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilwoman Von Crooks?
Hi, Scott.
Hello.
Being that you've been on the Planning Commission along with Wendy, what she's saying, our hands have been tied for a long time dealing with Dr. Nasir and the Riverside Hospital project, which has affected all of us up here. And we've been fighting with this for a long time. What's your plan on a Planning Commission level for this development? And also, I'm questioning about the rezoning for McLeod Steel. What do you, Riverside first?
So Riverside first, I can't remember what we zoned that as right off the top of my head, because we just did, and we're finalizing the zoning component of the master plan. But, I think that site, quite honestly, would be probably ideal for some mixed-use development. I mean, in my opinion, shooting from the hip, and I do reserve that comment, shooting from the hip, I think that site would be a good site for putting in some possibly mixed-use development. I don't think it's going to be a good site for industrial. Not at all, because of the layout of the adjacent residential on both sides. But I do think that it could be a catalyst for development throughout downtown. You've kind of got an anchor there, and you have an anchor with Elizabeth Park. If you could tie them together, that would be, I think, very beneficial to the community.
Absolutely.
On McLeod Steel, or MSC, I think, and don't take this offensively, I think the track is laid out on McLeod Steel. I don't think there's any really deliberation on it. Wayne County purchased the property. They found a suitor for the property, as well as, I'd like to introduce my wife, Melissa McHenry, Cabawatan. Put you on the spot. But also, Wayne County purchased the property. They found a suitor for the property. The County Board of Commissioners approved it, and I believe it was unanimous, as well as this council, or portions of this council, supported the plan as well from that suitor. When I say that plan, from my understanding, and I have not seen the whole plan, so I'm going off of hearsay and third-party information, but that plan, from what I understand, did not include anything of type of residential parkland. It was all industrial-based scenarios, from what I understand. When council approved that, I really think that kind of set in motion, it's going to be industrial. And I can't really disagree with that. I don't disagree, but I'm just saying the reasoning for that is that I think it's going to be industrial.
Good, thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Von Crooks. And thank you, Scott, too.
All right, thank you.
We started with you, right, Rick?
Yep.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. So, we have another round of ballots here, ready to go out, and so this time, Madam Clerk, I believe it's 3, correct?
Correct,
Do what now? Roll for 3?
Yep, we checked 3 boxes here, so.
3 of the 5 that we need.
Yep, 3 of the 5 remaining ones, we checked boxes on just the same way we did 5 previously.
Use this sheet.
That's your sheet.
Oh,
There's a new
I
one.
already scribbled on this one, okay.
Oh, well, just, that's okay.
Okay, so okay. I was writing things down.
On 3 out of the 5 names that remain.
Stevens is up there. It's gonna be up there.
my own answers, don't worry.
Okay.
I stole them from last week.
Yeah. I saw you vote.
Don't you worry about it.
Keep them in alphabetical order, please. Okay, Von Crooks, Scott Cabawatton, Robert Howie, William Jasmine.
Cabawatton, Howie, Jasmine.
And before we call the next one, I just want, for clarification's sake, anyone that has to advance has to be on 4 ballots according to the option selected.
Yes.
Correct. Okay, thank you.
Benedetti, Scott Cabawatton, Robert Howie, James Weeks.
Yes, Cabawatton, Howie, Weeks.
Correct. LaFever, Scott Cabawatton, Robert Howie, William Jasmine.
Cabawatton, Howie, Jasmine.
Correct. Pate, Scott Cabawatton, William Jasmine, James Weeks.
Cabawatton, Jasmine, Weeks.
Correct. Perugi, Scott Cabawatton, Robert Howie, William Jasmine.
Cabawatton, Howie, Jasmine.
Rozeppa, William Jasmine, Dora Rodriguez, James Weeks.
Jasmine, Rodriguez, Weeks.
Correct. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so going forward will be Scott Cabawatton, Robert Howie, and William Jasmine.
Alrighty. So, no,
Take a 5-minute break?
Yeah, does anyone, do you want to take like a couple-minute recess here for a bathroom break in particular?
Is that okay?
Is that okay? Does anyone have any issue to that? Okay.
You have a magazine, got a magazine I can read in there.
Do you want to make a motion to recess?
Yeah, let's make a motion. Welcome back, everybody. So, we were down to 3 candidates. Madam Clerk, I guess can you read the 3 candidates again, please?
The 3 candidates are Scott Cabawatton, Robert Howie, and William Jasmine.
Okay.
Pass out.
So, yeah, I suppose our next item here, unless anyone has, Councilman LaFever.
I think it's that time of night before to cast the vote, see if somebody gets 4 votes, is that fair to say?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, anyone can do that at any point. At any point, yeah, throughout the process, we could. I mean, we could narrow it down to 2 from here, or if we could go with 3, it's up to you. Or up to this entire body, 1 to... 2 or 1. 2 or 1, yeah, it's up to the body
We're
here.
going to just vote now.
For 2, I say we narrow it to 2.
The
Do we want to narrow it to 2?
narrow it to 2.
Yeah, say that is the...
Process is narrowed to 2.
Sure.
Any time before we can make a motion to do something different, you say.
Sure, that was part of the rules that were adopted, and I guess I'd want to confirm.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to appoint Scott Cabawatton to the council.
Okay, a motion is on the
Yeah.
table. It's been moved and supported. Do we have any further discussion? Councilwoman Von Crooks.
I would like to make a substitute motion and narrow it down to 2 and go from there. See how we all feel.
Okay, do we have...
I'll support that.
Okay, we have support on the substitute motion. Now, I'm going to need your help here, Madam Clerk, on how to go about discussing these.
Vote on the substitute motion.
You vote on...
We vote on the substitute motion first, and then the regular motion, correct?
No, the substitute motion would take place up to vote on voting, reducing it to 2, correct, Wally?
Correct. That was the motion. Substitute motion.
Okay.
And it was seconded.
Okay, so we are now on the substitute motion of narrowing it down to 2 candidates first. So is there any discussion on this Councilwoman Von Crooks' substitute motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'll call for a roll call vote.
All right. Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Benedetti?
No.
LaFever?
Yes.
Pate?
No.
Peruggi?
Yes.
Rezeppa?
No.
Von Crooks?
Yes.
Well, if it's a
Is it-
tied vote, no. Motion fails.
So the motion fails, and the tie there, so we are back to the initial motion from Councilman Benedetti to appoint Scott Cabawatton to the City Council. Is there any further discussion on that motion?
Roll call vote.
A roll call has been requested. Do we have any further discussion on the motion? It was seconded, correct? I just wanted to
Yes.
clarify.
Ms. Pate
Yeah, I
did.
thought so. Okay, it has been moved and
You
supported.
need 4 votes, right?
Correct, yep. Anyone will need 4 votes for an appointment. So, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
LaFever?
No.
Pate?
Yes.
Peruggi?
Yes.
Rezeppa?
Yes.
Von Crooks?
No.
Benedetti?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Congratulations, Mr. Cabawatton.
Mr. Mayor, may I?
You want to?
Yeah, absolutely.
Put those back.
Wow, thank you very much. It's a shock and an honor, quite honestly. So, thank you very much. I'd like to thank everybody on the council, not only for the process, but for the vote of confidence. Also, I'd like to thank the candidates that came out for the process. There was a lot of great ideas discussed tonight, and I think we would be doing ourselves a disservice if we did not try to pick the brains of some of those folks or all of those folks, because there was all some good ideas here tonight, and touch base with them and just, collaborate, because collaboration is going to be key next year, or this coming year, so. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Cabawatton.
Come
And,
on down and shake, Scott, come on, shake her.
well, we'll wait actually too, because I know we're here and prepared to actually swear you in today, given that instance. We do it, I guess, just sort of as to round out the agenda here. Yep, Madam
Can
Clerk.
I just mention, we can swear you in tonight, Scott, unless you would like to wait until the next regular council meeting if you would like your family to come down.
Yeah, we'll wait till the next one, if that's...
Sure.
that's
Okay.
You guys will be friends then?
Yes.
All right, well, now that that's done, we move to other council business.
This was a special meeting.
Oh, so we can't actually do any other, okay, any other comments
Make
or
a motion
anything?
to adjourn. Support.
Okay, public comment is still part of it, though. Yeah, so that part has to be it. So any members of the public like to speak?
Look at that.
God, I love that kid.
Way to go,
Man,
RJ. Way to go.
Good job, RJ.
Yep, good job.
All right, seeing no members of the public wishing to speak.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion
Second.
moved and supported. Any discussion on the motion?
No.
Seeing none? We are adjourned.
Mr.